Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Next slide, please. We have some housekeeping items to go over. The webinar will be recorded and everyone will stay muted during the presentation. There will be question and answers during the course of the presentation. Please put any questions you may have in the chat to be answered during those times. The slides and recording will be made available to participants after the presentation. You can expect the slide deck and the resources toolkit that will be provided to participants early next week. And the recording will take a little bit longer, but we'll let you know when that's available to view. At the end of the presentation, a survey link will be put in the chat, and we would really appreciate you completing that before you leave today. At this time, I'd like to introduce Denise Litz, who's going to welcome us to the webinar.
Joanne Eskenahay, greetings everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second day of our business plan development and sustainability webinar. We're thrilled to have you here. We have a lot of great information for you all. Looking forward to the exchange of questions and answers. So I will turn it back to the next slide, please. I just want to announce that we are collaborating with the Administration for Native Americans. Their technical assistance team is joining us, Rondell Clay and Dan Van Otten. Rondell's not available today, but Dan is powering forward for all of us. So next slide, please. So we're also joined by our Tribal Technical Assistance team, which is Tribal Tech. We have Christine Celentano, Terry Rose, and Kelly LaChance joining us on this webinar. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go ahead and let me just let you know. So I do work for Tribal Tech. My name is Christine Celentano. I'm really happy you all could join us today. We're going to start with discovering concepts, practices, and resources of business sustainability. Next slide, please. The goal of today's webinar is to increase participant confidence in business plan development and sustainability from preparation, writing, which we covered in the last workshop on Tuesday, sustainability concepts and some next steps. An overview will be provided on planning logistically for business sustainability in this workshop, this part 2. We will dig into defining business sustainability, review 14 business growth strategies, and finally, we'll talk about funding and technical assistance resources to encourage planning for business sustainability when the time is right and decision-making is apparent for you all in your business journey. Okay, so next slide, please. During the first webinar objective 1, we're going to define business sustainability and talk a little bit about planning for that. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Administration for Native Americans Region 3 Training and Technical Assistance Center consultant, Dan Van Otten. Dan?
Thank you. Next slide, please. So there are 4 types of business structures that we're going to look at. And the structure you choose depends, of course, on the scope and of the business, the control over the business. And those are factors that you're going to consider when you take a look at the structure that you're going to work on creating. A sole proprietorship, it's generally a single individual who is personally responsible for all the debts and obligations and receives the revenues of the business. This structure is used in lots of self-employment operations, and many micro businesses and small businesses start out as a sole proprietorship. It's a good starting point. A partnership is a form of business where 2 or more folks share in the ownership, as well as responsibility for managing the company and the income or losses it generates. In a general partnership, all parties share legal and financial liability equally. Individuals are personally responsible for the debts the partnership takes on. Profits are shared equally. A limited liability partnership, an LLP, limits partners' personal liability so that, for example, if one partner is sued for malpractice, other members of the firm are not at risk. Partnerships often are the next stage in a business evolution after sole proprietorship. And moving to the larger structures, the more the structures we'll see, in community corporations and tribal corporations. Limited liability companies, or LLCs, are structures in which members are not personally liable for the community's debt, for the company's debts. LLCs are taxed on a pass-through basis. All profits and losses are filed through members' personal tax returns. And generally, LLCs are registered by the state, at least non-tribal ones are, and they're required to pay a one-time filing fee as well as an annual fee. And finally, a C corporation. C corp is a legal structure for a corporation in which the owners or shareholders are taxed separately from the entity. This is the corporate structure we often bump up against. An S corporation is similar to a C corporation in that it both allows ownership and officers of a company to be legally distinct from the business itself. The business itself has the same rights as an individual, the same legal standing as an individual. However, there is no important difference with regard to taxation between a C and an S. An S corp is a pass-through entity. It means that it can be used to pass profits and tax credits on to its shareholders. Now, here is a big caveat. I am not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. Things like sovereign immunity and limited waiver of sovereign immunity come into play in operation of a tribal corporation. And they also, that set of issues need to be carefully explored in a context other than this webinar. And taxation of an off-reservation business, native business, is a topic to explore in another webinar as well. Okay, next slide, please. So we're talking about business sustainability. What the heck is business sustainability? Well, here are some standards. They're not maybe the only ones, but they're really important ones. A business, one of the standards is a business that has a recognized and permanent market in a local, regional, or national setting. Worked in the past with a tribal smokehouse. Its initial operation was in the back part of the Economic Development Commission's facility, and it did local market kinds of stuff, and then it moved to an outlet on the coast, and it added some additional items to the mix it was offering, and it started offering the marketing of goods and artwork from tribal members, as well as smoked salmon and jerky. So that market, you're able to sort of move through markets. It ended up being part of the Made in Oregon mix and got marketed at the Portland International Airport, got into an international market. You can move through that series of markets. Second standard to take a look at is when it's meeting its projections as detailed in business and marketing and financial plans. When it's doing that, that's a standard of sustainability. When it has identified critical issues, developed contingency plans to address those issues, and successfully implemented contingency plans when needed, is a standard of sustainability. And when it's definitely, definably moving toward and is generating a net profit, hitting a break-even point. That can take 3 to 5 years, even in a well-managed venture, but that's a standard of sustainability. Next slide, please. So research and prepare for business sustainability. This is stuff that we talked about Tuesday. These are elements of business building a sustainable business that we talked about Tuesday. And it summarizes the work we did in the previous presentation. Developing a sustainable business is the result of creating and implementing a well-crafted business plan. The issues listed are issues that, if you want to take a look at them, please take a look at what we talked about on Tuesday. Next slide. If your business has a recognized and permanent market, is meeting or exceeding business plan projections, is dealing effectively with critical issues, has hit a break-even point, you may be ready to work on growth strategies. Okay, so we're going to look at issues to consider in the next slide. And this, things to think about before considering growth. And I don't know how many of you remember Yogi Berra. He was just great. He was a Yankee catcher and coach, and he had a marvelous way of phrasing stuff. And here's one of the Yogiisms I really love. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. And so planning, look at it, planning, look at it, profitability, and looking at monitoring and reporting are really important things to have a handle on before you start going into growth. So some additional Yogiisms. Under the first one, planning, strategic planning, market planning, financial planning. Yogiism: when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Or when you can observe a lot by just watching, do it. Strategic marketing, financial planning is not a once it's done, it's a completed process. It's an ongoing, dynamic. Integrate those processes into your operational procedures. It's a really important part of being ready for growth. Another Yogiism: I always thought the record would stand until it was broken. Reaching and passing the break-even point is a major focus of venture operations. Keep that focus at the forefront of your monitoring, evaluation, and planning work. It'll be when you reach that point, you're going to be ready for growth. And the last one, monitoring and reporting. In theory, there is, again, Yogi. In theory, there's no difference between theory and practice. In practice, there is. You'll never know unless you engage in ongoing monitoring and use the results of that monitoring to create clear, continual, updated information on financial and marketing results and conditions. When you've got that in place, then you may be ready to look for growth. Next slide, please. So, tips.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Sorry. We'll hear more from Dan soon. We're going to go ahead and cover the tips for helping your business grow. And these are practices that tie back to your business planning. So you want to understand your audience. One way to encourage growth is to get to know your customer base. Find key demographic information by analyzing data from multiple sources. Look for ways to track your customers' buying preferences or service contracts. Once you understand this data, you can drive decisions that impact revenue, such as product offerings, market share, and regional expansion. So focus on leads. Lead generation is a key way to grow a business. Securing leads both organically and through specific marketing efforts can increase sales and generate more brand awareness. Lead generation has a direct impact on sales once a lead converts to a client. Create a vision. Leading company growth with a vision creates a clear path for a business to expand. Since growth is more likely through targeted efforts, creating goals and set up specific initiatives can help everyone in the organization work toward accomplishing the same objectives. Strategize your brand. Build trust with consumers by connecting customers to your brand. Making a plan to utilize social and other platforms can help you expand your business too. Next slide, please. So we have a best practice tip here. If you want to give your growth strategy the same kind of time, attention, and planning as you've done in your business development and operations plan, ensuring business sustainability. So we actually encourage you to think about, and you must think about business sustainability when you're developing your business plan. You want to think about long-term, you're thinking about what ways you're going to reach and grow. And so you'll be incorporating this concept of business sustainability in the beginning efforts, in the planning efforts, when you're developing your business plan. Next slide, please. So at this time, we're going to look and see if there are questions. Okay. There's a question here. Can these ideas apply to a self-sustaining nonprofit as well? My answer to that would be yes. Dan, do you have some thoughts on that? Do you want to add?
Absolutely. I think absolutely they apply to a nonprofit organization, the way it moves forward with revenue generating projects and products. We, as a nonprofit, we can generate revenues. We just have to use them in a specific set of expenditures. We have to use them in a specific way to maintain our nonprofit. If we're incorporated as a 501c3, we have to do that. We have to mind our expenses, make sure they are used for charitable institutional purposes. And I'm through talking.
Thank you, Dan. Next slide, please. Okay, that brings us to business sustainability concepts and practices. Next slide. Okay. So what is business growth? Business growth occurs when business owners, employees, and outside factors influence the success of a company. Growth is the goal of most businesses and is the reason behind many decisions that affect the daily workings of a company, both internally and externally. Business growth is impacted by consumer trends, market opportunities, and decisions made by company leadership. Growing businesses takes planning and concentrated effort that fall into these main category types. There's organic growth that happens when a business creates the right conditions for expansion. There's strategic growth, which is a strategic approach, focuses on long-term growth through specific initiatives. There's a partnership merger. This type of strategy occurs when a company joins another business and creates more market opportunities. And internal growth strategy is one that works to maximize internal processes to increase business and revenue. Next slide, please. At this time, we're going to go through 14 types of business growth. We'll go through them briefly and try and provide some examples. My colleague and I, Kelly and I, are going to go through these, and I'm going to go through the first 7. So next slide, please. Market penetration is the first. So market penetration occurs when a business tries to generate further growth within their current market. To do this, they may try to lower prices or increase marketing efforts to gain more market share. Increasing brand awareness can be an effective way to implement this strategy. So you may recognize people doing this through putting maybe their business name on a pen, or at a basketball tournament, they sponsor a team and their business is on the back of somebody's shirt or the front of somebody's shirt. They're just getting their name out there to increase that brand awareness and trying to capture more of the share within that market for their industry. Next slide, please. Product development. Businesses may choose a growth strategy that involves innovating current products or creating new ones to increase revenue. Some companies choose to take existing inventory and add new features to attract more customers. Investing in the design and creation of new products is one way to foster business growth. So, for example, I like to think about a coffee shop. We're all familiar with them. We've probably been to them, even if you're a tea drinker. And one of the ways that those coffee shops can grow is by selling wares like to-go mugs that you can, get your coffee in. You get your free cup of coffee first when you buy that mug, and then you can take it into your meetings or wherever into your car. They're made very specifically to fit in the car cup holders. So they definitely design those to work in for a to-go concept. But that's an idea of being able to, you're allowing your customer to take your product, your coffee outside of the shop, and you're also promoting your brand with the design on the to-go mug. Next slide, please. Market expansion. So this is number 3. In the market expansion method, a business tries to expand their current market by reaching untapped customer bases. For example, an office supply company may try to gain market share by selling to educational institutions, schools, colleges, healthcare organizations, maybe local hospitals or small clinics, and government agencies, instead of strictly selling to corporate office clients. So they may expand their market beyond their traditional businesses, corporations, and go to other areas, nonprofits, and some of the ones I mentioned. Next slide, please. So number 4 is vertical integration. Companies who decide to go through vertical integration strategies take on another part of the manufacturing or distribution process. This may mean that a company begins to produce their own packaging materials or buys a factory that produces a key item for a product. So when you have a business, oftentimes you don't produce everything you need for that business. And maybe, here's an example with the coffee shop again. People started purchasing, paper straws, and everybody wants, to save the earth. And so paper straws were going to be easier, and it takes plastic out of the landfill. If you're a coffee shop, maybe you decide to make your own. And so that's like taking a part of your, where you normally buy that supply from someone else, and actually doing it yourself. Another idea would be roasting your own beans. So now you're a local roaster and a coffee shop. So you've taken on part of what you used to purchase, and you're doing it yourself in your business. So those are a couple of examples. Number 5 is productivity and efficiency. This probably makes some intuitive sense. Some businesses grow by changing their processes to increase productivity. Efficient production methods can help cut costs and increase revenue. A business may choose to conduct an audit of their manufacturing processes, distribution methods, and other parts of their production chain. So I'm going to use a coffee shop example again. So if you have key times where you're going to be busy, you're operating a small drive-through, say coffee house, like just a little shed-like thing that you see all over the place that people have. And you're going to be really busy between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. You're going to do your staffing plan so that you have the most people on during your busiest times, and then you're going to let people go. So you save some money for a few hours until lunch rolls around again, and then you've got a full staff, and it just peters out toward the afternoon. That's an example of looking at how you manage your workforce and the amount of money you're paying to have that workforce there, and just adjusting a schedule. That's a small example, but that's an example. If you're a large corporation, you're going to be looking at some of the things described, like the manufacturing processes and your distribution methods, and how can you improve on getting your products out there to your customers. Next slide, please. So new geographies, investing marketing efforts into expansion to other locations can also be a growth strategy for business. This can mean regional, national, or even worldwide expansion of product offerings and distribution. Offering products outside of a current geographical area can generate new revenue streams if distribution is handled effectively. So new geographies, I think that's also pretty intuitive. You're looking at expanding your market, and you're looking at new places where you might be able to sell your products, whatever they are. So for instance, some people have might have a local shop. Say they do jewelry and beadwork, and they have a local shop. They may take that shop on the road to different events that the tribe has, or maybe they're going on the road for the whole summer, going to different powwows, going to other events, rodeos, and they're renting space and they're taking their products and they're actually expanding their geography. Eventually, people will come to expect to see them in these venues every year. And I know people who do this, and they have a whole customer base in different states for this reason. Next slide, please. Okay, this is share of wallet. Focusing on customer retention and quality service, companies can initiate growth by expanding sales to current customers. Selling to existing customers typically costs less than other marketing efforts. This strategy can be effective for companies with excellent customer service practices and loyal customer base. At this point, I think it's time to turn it over to Kelly. And Kelly's going to cover the next 7 growth strategies. Kelly?
Thank you, Christine. So, number 8, diversification. Diversification is how businesses choose to grow to create new products for a new market. Related diversification refers to new products and services that are similar to ones you already sell. Juicing and fresh smoothies are popular businesses. Say you start selling regular smoothies and decide later on to add fresh fruit pieces to create a new chunky smoothie drink to market and sell this. And this is an example of a related diversification. Unrelated diversification refers to products that are unrelated to each other. For example, you may have a t-shirt design business in your community, and then you start selling Apple products because of the market and need in the community. This is another example of unrelated diversification. Next slide, please. Acquisitions is when a business may implement a growth strategy by buying one or more businesses to develop new products or create a wider market of their current products. This may include purchasing similar businesses that will complement their current one. For example, you already have a successful indigenous organic soap business, and you see the opportunity to buy another business, such as an indigenous-owned sustainable business, to make up the company to develop more products. As a result of the acquisition, you can create a wider market and eventually develop new products through this growth strategy. Number 10, new channels. New channels is an offering of products through new distributions and is another way for businesses to expand. Direct channels is where consumers will buy a product or service directly from you. For example, they will purchase a product from your storefront or through your website. Indirect channels is where consumers purchase your products from retailers that your business distributes to. In that case, you may not decide to sell your indigenous organic natural soaps and beauty products directly, but distribute them to the large retailers to sell your products. Next slide, please. Number 11, new business models. New business models is about changing the way you do business. A positive outcome is desirable in strategy and development. This starts with making operational changes to create more growth opportunities. This will include looking at product development, marketing strategies, and costs. If your current business model is out of date and needs to be updated, you have the opportunity to change how you do business. For example, during the pandemic, This changed the way for how a lot of businesses did business in order to survive. This included being flexible to make multiple changes during that unknown time and doing things outside of the box that was normally not done. For example, delivery services became a readily accessible service to access and utilized and actually grew during that time. Next slide, please. Number 12, investment. Investments is owning shares and investing in other companies as a way to expand business growth. When a company uses their revenue to increase the assets of another business, they have the opportunity to receive benefits as a stakeholder. This is an advanced growth strategy for businesses to increase dividends, stock options, and other investment earnings. Next slide, please. Market segmentation focuses on a small segment of industry and growing specifically in that area. For example, Ball, who makes the glass canning jars, has now moved into making Ball aluminum cups, which are recyclable. They have found that they can make the aluminum recyclable cup at the same cost as plastic. The cup is also designed to keep liquids cooler and is being marketed to restaurants and sports venues. In market segmentation, this can apply to smaller businesses as well to compete with bigger businesses. This is a really creative opportunity and is unlimited in what you can create that is not already offered out there. Next slide, please. Business partnerships is key when companies from different or the same industries or markets benefit from gaining attention of another consumer group. Business partnerships increase business growth by leveraging the key elements of two or more brands in the marketplace. For example, like Uber and Spotify, Red Bull and GoPro, Taco Bell and Doritos. They're just examples. And as you can see from these examples, there is a common theme in finding another business that would complement and create a shared success. Business partnerships are unlimited creative opportunities to develop and elevate co-branding partnerships. Next slide, please. And looks like at this time, we're going to take some questions.
Okay, there are some questions here. We have capital investment streams for Native American-owned businesses in the startup or expansion periods. We will be speaking a little bit about funding here toward the a little bit further into our session today. So if we don't get your questions answered, be sure to ask them at that time. And then there's another question from Donnell. Do you have recommendations for e-commerce tools or apps to help track business operations, expenses, sales, etc.? And are you aware of any apps or services that partner with the native biz owners and provide their services at a group rate or discount? Both really good questions. And what we can do, we haven't done this yet, but because we haven't finalized the resource toolkit, Donnell, we can look into some recommendations for e-commerce tools or apps to help track business operations, expenses, and sales. We do offer some financial tools, so you may find some of those helpful in the resources toolkit. But we'll look into that a little bit and see if we can get some information back to you on that. And then let me see. That's it for questions right now. So next slide, please. So this is where we're going to talk about funding and technical assistance resources. And we're going to hand it back over to Dan, who has a lot of great knowledge in this area. Dan?
Oh, that's a high expectation. So let's move to the next slide, please. Let's start by talking about CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. You know, we talk a lot about self-sufficiency and self-determination in our work and when we're talking about concepts of who we are. And yet many of our communities remain dependent on outside entities to handle a substantial amount of finances and financial transactions we carry out day after day, you know, year after year, on the individual level, on the collective level. We are working with outside institutions, mostly financial institutions, most of the time. And we have the ability to become our own financial institution by creating Native community development institutions. So that's a particular type of a community development institution. There are 5 types of community financial organizations that fall under the definition of community development institution, CDFI. And that's a federal treasury designation. CDFIs are a federal treasury designation based on organizational and lending standards. And entities that have meet those standards have access to U.S. Treasury grants through the CDFI fund. So next slide, please. All right, we're going to talk about the first of the CDFIs we're going to talk about is community development credit unions. CDCUs provide ownership of assets and savings and provide affordable credit and retail financial services to low-income folks. They're nonprofit financial cooperatives that are owned by their members. Credit unions are regulated by the National Credit Union Administration. That's an independent federal agency. And some are also regulated by state agencies. And in some cases, they have ties with both the feds and the state. In most institutions, deposits are insured by the National Credit Union Administration. And this is a great place to start in building CDFIs in your community. Credit unions are something that have a lot of community engagement, community gathering, can build community focus and community assets. Okay, next slide, thank you. Community Development Loan Fund. Community development loan funds provide financing and development services to businesses in our communities and individuals in our communities. And they really focus on the low-income sector of our communities. It's a pretty substantial sector. There are 4 main types of loan funds: micro enterprise, small business loan fund, housing loan funds, and community service loan funds. Community organization loan funds / service. Each is defined by the clientele served, and many loan funds serve more than one type of area, housing and community organization, for instance, providing supportive services, helping folks get in housing and providing supportive services to keep them in that housing. CDLFs, community development loan funds, tend to be nonprofit, and they're governed by boards of directors with community representation. All right, next slide, please. Micro Business Development Loan Fund. I love micro business operations. So microloan funds are a subcategory of the general loan fund that funds projects that have a smaller scope. The fund focuses on smaller loans, primarily for startup. There's a lot of focus on startup. This resource is a lending tool often used by Native financial development institutions. And under under this this subcategory of loan funds, micro business loan funds, there's usually a sort of cap, and I think the official cap is $20,000, but the cap that's set by an organization, a micro business loan organization, often is much less than that. Some micro business development loan funds have a loan range of about 3 to 8, 3 to 5,000 as a set of standards for their lending. Next slide, please. So, community development venture capital fund. Not quite as many of these in existence in native country. Not many at all, actually. Community development venture capital funds. A fund that is not used as much in native communities. And it provides equity and debt with equity features for small and medium-sized businesses in distressed communities. They can either be nonprofit or for-profit, but they always include community representation. And this CDFI acquires a share of the venture in return for its investment. It's not just providing a loan, it's actually becoming a part of the structure of the venture in return for its assistance. Okay, next slide, please. And this is one of my favorites, or it is actually my favorite, Community Development Corporation, CDCs. A community development corporation is a nonprofit that provides programs that focus on building self-sufficiency in the community, offer services and engage in activities that promote and support community development. They usually serve a geographic location, such as a tribe or defined community, urban community, such as an urban Indian community. I've worked with CDCs that do a wide range of activities, but it all focuses on creating individual and community stability. So CDCs often offer a set of financial literacy trainings for individuals, and then business development and operation trainings for individuals and for corporate structures in some cases. They work a lot with IDAs, individual development accounts. I've looked at work done by the Community Development Corporation at Warm Springs that really has a big piece of IDA activity going on. They have the largest native IDA program in the country. IDAs are special savings accounts. For every $1 that a person puts in Warm Springs, they get, I think, $3 in matching funds. And those IDAs can be used for purchasing home, for higher education, accessing higher education, for business investment on the part of the holder of the IDA. And in Warm Springs, you can use an IDA as a part of your purchasing a vehicle. So IDAs have a lot of flexibility in them, and native organizations, CDCs, are doing a lot of really good work with IDAs. All native CDFIs provide counseling and TA. Think about working or creating a native CDFI as part of your long-term strategy, or included in the strategic plan we were talking about on Tuesday. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, now we're going to look at funding sources, and types of funding sources is really what we're talking about here. The first one is independent investors. And I guess there's a TV thing called Shark Tank that some of us have watched. And I think I've seen it a couple of times where people make their pitch. People make their pitch to investors, and the investors that are sitting there listening and asking questions decide to fund all or none of the participants. Individual investors are investing on their own behalf, and they're also called retail investors. So think about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and Billy Gates. Those are national figures. But they have state and local counterparts. This category investor, when contacted on the open market, not as part of a foundation they may be supporting, like the Gates folks do. They're usually targeted after you've established a track record. They're not usually targeted for startup, despite the sharp change. Banks, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, has an element in it called the Community Reinvestment Act. It's a federal piece of a federal law that is designed to encourage banks and savings associations to meet the needs of borrowers in low and moderate income communities. And it does a pretty good job of that. And it's something to be aware of when you are making your pitch to a bank or something other than a tribal savings and loan institution. Talk to them about CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, the timber enterprise that we talked about on Tuesday, where we started out with log exports and then moved into doing our own milling, acquiring a mill, modifying it to do hard and soft wood and small and large logs, and even toothpicks. We started that process by talking to Frank at the bank and getting a line of credit that we could use in moving forward with the project. So that's something that you want to keep doing, is looking at as a main source of financing, hard money rather than soft money. Institutional investors, those are large firms that invest money on behalf of others. Don't just think of Goldman Sachs when you think of commercial investors. Some of our gaming operations are involved in lending and investment activities. And we have lenders in our geographic areas. Do some investigation, see what is there. Check with Frank at the bank. Get recommendations from Frank on potential lending investors. Next slide, please. Okay, on to Christine.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And I wonder if you ever came across a Frank at the bank, but I like that. So we're gonna have you answer a question, all of you. For those of you that have completed a business plan and or feasibility study, what level of funding is needed to get your business started? So let me go ahead and launch this poll. I'll take a few more seconds here. I see people are still answering. Just another 10 seconds or so. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And it looks like, I'll go ahead and share the poll results. It looks like 43% are looking for under 50,000. About 20% are between 50 and 100,000. 20%, about 20% between 100 and 500,000. And 13% over 500,000. That's a pretty equal distribution there. Thank you for sharing that. That information was requested by the Office of Indian Economic Development, and we'll be sharing that with them. So thank you. Okay, next slide, please. This is our question slide. We had one question that came in about business codes and legal structure framework for tribes. And I want you all to remember that we will include a tribal structure handbook in the resources toolkit. And you'll have access to that early next week. It'll be Monday or Tuesday. You should receive an email from us with links to those resources. So thank you for asking about that. And then I think that's it for questions for now, at least that I find in the chat. So we'll go ahead and keep moving along. Next slide, please. Yeah, well, thank you. Secondary funding partners are considered government and foundation funding. And Dan's going to go ahead and get us started on this topic with the next slide. Dan?
Okay, thank you. Government and foundation funding. We're going to explore some secondary funding sources that could assist with business financing. And some folk focus on government and foundation dollars to cover startup costs and sustainability cost efforts, and you can do that. But I'd really encourage you to look at the private market for some of the startup stuff that you're doing, and add revenues to the mix. Private market and revenues when you look at sustainability. Go after soft money for expansion, like new product lines and capacity building. That's okay. Go after them for that. But I really encourage you to look at hard money for startup and in determining sustainability, building sustainability. Now there are soft money resources that are specifically set aside for startup and operations, and I'm excluding those. I'll exclude those from the statement of encouragement. We'll talk about some of those funders later. Next slide, please. Okay, the annual publication of assisted listing. The feds provide funding through a variety of agencies, and depending on the focus of your business or what you plan to use the funds for, you have a real good chance of finding a likely suspect for meeting your funding requirements in the annual publication. You know, we used to call this thing the Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance, CDFI, and it's still known by that moniker in places. The annual publication is located on SAM, capital SAM.gov website, on the SAM.gov website. Next slide, please. So here's a listing that the publication provides. It's a wide range of benefits and services, grouped into 20 basic functional categories and 176 subcategories. Categories and subcategories cover a really wide range of areas of interest. Use the categories guide in your search and exploration work. And note that there's a URL on the top of this slide that is giving you the address for the category, the annual publication. You also will get that address, the annual publication address, in the toolkit that we're sending you. Next slide. In grants.gov, we have done a lot of work, I bet you, in grants.gov. Nonprofits and native governments can do a lot of work finding funding opportunities in this piece of work. Most of the funds that are listed on this site do not pertain to individual businesses, however. They're mainly for government and nonprofit applicants, some for-profit as well. Next slide. All right, foundations that have native programs. Foundations with specific funds and resources for funding for native organizations and native governments need to go after foundation funding in specific potential funding source areas. There's much less that's available to government. There's much more that's available to nonprofits through foundation funding. They generally have specific topics they provide funds for. Another issue with dealing with foundations is that getting funding is really dependent on doing a lot of relationship building with the funder, a lot of relationship building with potential funder. You need to build social capital. It's really a requirement. With both foundations and with corporate donors. Many foundations provide funding by invitation only, and the invitations are issued to those organizations that have built relationship with staff from the funding network. It's just essential. The foundation directory provides a list of foundations and funding priorities. And the next slide will give us some information on investing in Native communities. The map on this page is from candid.org, and it's a nonprofit that has teamed with Native Americans in philanthropy. This slide provides information on the Alaskan, the lower 48, and the islands, and the level of financial contribution from foundations to entities in those regions. You can see that Alaska and the islands get a pretty good chunk of change through this set of efforts, as well as the lower 48. Next slide, please. Okay, here's where I headed before, and I shouldn't have. Local community foundations. Another source about foundations is the National Standard for U.S. Community Foundations. That's an organization that certifies and provides a list of community funders. The link is in the toolkit. And you can search by state. You can search by state to find out what foundations, what local foundations are working in or contributing to the work of nonprofits in your particular jurisdiction, your state jurisdiction. Next slide. And then this is just sort of we've got a list of folks that are a very partial, extremely partial list of folks that are doing technical assistance, doing some funding of nonprofits, foundations that are doing that, and information areas that provide data on those foundations. Some information, just a couple of listings of federal funders. OIED-Technical is a national nonprofit that it's the longest standing Native CDFI. It's a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution. It's a CDFI intermediary, actually. It provides funding and assistance to CDFIs. So it's a place where if you have a CDFI or you want to work on a CDFI, OIED-Technical is a good place to look. It provides financial products, development services, exclusively to Native CDFIs and Native communities. It's in Colorado. I did some work with OIED-Technical on the NABI project, Native Asset Building Initiative. It was an IDA program that ANA and the Office of Community Services collaborated on, building IDA programs in Native communities. It just did some really great work in assistance on that project. ONABN, our Native American business network, our Native American business network. ONABN, it started out as a nonprofit, Native nonprofit here in Oregon, supported by 4 tribes, and it's moved into a regional and now a national, I think, status of providing assistance. It provides curriculum, training, organizational capacity building. It focuses on developing entrepreneurship in Native and Indigenous communities, collective work on building community community economic development organizations, and working with individuals, helping individuals. The Indianpreneurship, financial and business assistance training program comes out of Anava. Native Centers for Enterprise Development is an entity that's offering technical assistance, support, and services. Native 360. Native 360 is a really cool organization. It started out as working with the Ponkas and has now moved into actually a national perspective, operating technical assistance for small and micro businesses. And foundations. There you've got a couple of pieces of information about places you can look for information on foundations that serve nonprofit organizations. First Nations and OIED are connected. They work together on economic development projects in Native communities. On the federal level, ANA. I've worked with ANA for the last 20 years, and I got to say something about them. Their social and economic development strategies competition prioritizes areas they have a set of priorities in the SEDS competition, and those include commercial trade, economic competitiveness, economic infrastructure, entrepreneurship, and micro business development, master plans for community and economic development, Native community financial development institutions is a priority area for funding. ANA's competition is open right now, and I think it closes the end of March. ONAP, Office of Native American Programs, is in HUD. It has the Indian Community Development Block Grant Program and the Title VI Loan Guarantee Program. Get familiar with those programs. And then Department of Treasury. Department of Treasury, the Native American CDFI Assistance Program, the NACA program. They fund projects specifically in Native country for building CDFIs. All of this stuff is found in the toolkit, how to connect with them and work with them. And it's being sent to everybody, I guess. And to expand on the toolkit, let me turn it back over to Christine, please.
Thank you, Dan. So this brings us to our next slide. We're going to do a little quiz. Let me go ahead and launch that for you. It's not a rocket science quiz, but it's just to see how much you've been able to take in for this presentation. So give me a chance to get it loaded here. Here we go. Okay, so there's 4 questions, and you can go ahead and use the gray scroll bar on the side to go down to the next question once you finish the first one. I'm still seeing movement, so a couple more minutes. Okay, I'm going to end the poll in 20 seconds. Okay, I'll end the poll. I'll share the results. I'll give you the answers. Okay, so a business is sustainable when you no longer need to worry about your operations, financial picture, and marketing. That is false. You always need to worry about those things. And that's part of your sustainability plan and initiative, is to keep monitoring and evaluating your operations, your financial picture, and your marketing strategy. Number 2, market segmentation is when you focus on a small part of the industry and grow in this area. 93% of you got that correct. It is true. And number 3, which are primary funding sources for Native American businesses? The answer is actually A, B, and C. And this is a little bit of a trick question. The Economic Development Administration may provide some secondary funding. But the three that were mentioned in our presentation today were A, B, and C. So number 4, business development and sustainability technical assistance resources are available through, and the answer is all of the above. So you're all right on number 4. Well, thank you so much for participating. That was just a little bit of opportunity to see what you gathered from our presentation. So next slide, please. Thank you. Nice work. And then we are going to our next slide where Kelly will wrap us up.
Yes, thank you, Christine. So you're going to receive a follow-up email in the next week along with the Business Sustainability Resources Toolkit. In the toolkit, you'll find a map of Native American CDFIs, YouTube video links on sustainability, blogs and news articles, also federal, tribal, and other resources will be available in the toolkit. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so just to recap and moving forward on what we covered today. So we covered research and prepare for business sustainability, tips for helping your business grow, 14 types of business growth strategies, local community foundations, community and outside community funding resources, mentoring and technical assistance, business sustainability toolkit and resources. We know there are a lot of participants here that are participating today that have business experiences. And we would like to ask you at this time if you would like to add your best practice tips to share in the chat. So we'll give everyone some time to do that. Thank you.
Feel free to keep entering your business sustainability best practices or tips, and we'll actually compile it into an additional resource in the resources toolkit, so we can take advantage of those of you online that have a lot of experience.
Christine, could I chime in with something real quickly?
Sure, please.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I just saw a comment from somebody about getting investment on the res being a real difficult process. And that it can be a real difficult process. You have to build relationships. And Frank at the bank is probably going to require a tribal council resolution that talks about a waiver, a limited sovereignty waiver as part of what's going on to get financing. That can be done, and it needs to be something that you work with your leaders on, you work with your community leaders on, to help them understand why it can be done, how it can be done without actually damaging the concept of tribal sovereignty. And there are funds that we can go after without going through that process. And I saw the 184 program pop up there, the HUD Home Loan Guarantee Program, that makes it a lot easier to work with lenders, absolutely, because HUD is standing as guarantor for home purchase loans. And you can use 184 program funds to do housing development, actually. There's a lot you can do with those funds. The Title VI Loan Guarantee Program, where you can take NAHASDA funds, Indian Housing Block Grant funds, and use them as a sort of a loan guarantee that you can use the totals of I can't remember how many years you can use, like 3 years or something like that, of IHBG allocation as a loan guarantee to move ahead with larger development projects that you need to have done, want to have done, community wants to have done, needs to have done. There are lots of things we can do. To get around that dilemma of, geez, it's hard to get investment on the res, but we can do it. We really, truly can. Creating an economic development corporation separate from the tribe, that's doing business and builds a reputation in the surrounding community as a really well-structured business development organization is a marvelous strategy for moving forward with getting financing for work on the rest. So there's stuff we can do. Let's do it.
Thank you, Dan. So Dan did address a couple of the questions I saw in there. Can you go to the next slide, please? So there's a couple of comments in here by individuals that have mentioned they're not surrounded by community. The Office of Indian Economic Development, Division of Economic Development, established an Indian Business Incubator Program. There are 10 new grantees within the last year that will be setting up these Indian Business Incubator Programs. And we're going to include a map so you can see where they're located. And if there's anything close to you, or if any of them are able to provide resources, they are designed to work with individuals and with tribes. So we will provide that to you. Again, the slides will be available early next week. We have your email and we'll let you know how to access them. And we put a participant survey link into the chat. So if you get a chance, I'll go ahead and put it in there again. Just take a couple of minutes to let us know what you thought. And we really appreciate the feedback so we can improve our future offerings to you. Also, I want to thank everyone very much for adding your best practice tips. That's really helpful to hear from your peers. And we will, again, put that together into a document and share it with folks in the resources toolkit. So please, again, take a chance or take a moment to complete the participant survey. Next slide, please, Terry. And before you go, I just want to let you know that we're going to close this session in a really positive way. And we have Jim Henry with us from the Office of Indian Economic Development. He is an economic development specialist on Denise Litz's team, who welcomed us this morning. And at this time, I think I'd like to turn it over to you, Jim. Next slide, please.
Thank you. Asasa Kaniki Heskum. I am stationed in Palm Desert, California, the traditional homelands of the Kuya people. I am Maidu and a citizen of the Enterprise Rancheria, which is actually located in Northern California. In preparation for this closing, I asked my ancestors for guidance, and their response was, the road will be long, which seems kind of fitting as we look at business development, sustainability. So please prepare yourself as we pray. Kodoyapem, which is our creator, we thank you for all you provide us. We thank you for bringing us together virtually to hear from our teachers about business plan development and sustainability. Thank you to our teachers. They have shared a lot of information with us. Creator, as we tell our stories, we know the road will be long. Developing a business plan will take time. Seeking out financing will take time. Building growth will take time. Creator, thank you for providing us with the tools to develop our business ideas. Creator, thank you for giving us the strength to ask for help when needed. Creator, thank you for the fire in our spirit to tackle this adventure. Creator, thank you for giving me tools to care for my family. We thank you, Creator, for every prayer that we have prayed and for everything that we have learned. Oh, amen.
And I'm going to turn it over to Denise. Next slide, please. And she's going to finish us off here today.
I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for joining us. I have hopeful that everyone received valuable resources Before we leave, we'll pop our website in the chat so that everyone can visit our website if they have more questions. And please wish you the best in your day and take care, and we'll talk soon.